In this video, we're going to take a look at the standards and the civil toggles. So the standards portion and civil toggles, we have a drawing that we're in for the class, which is the horizontal geometry introduction. So we're still in that file. We're taking a look at the standards. And so for the first part here, we're looking at design standards toolbar. This design standards toolbar is used to set the design standards for what type of roadway that you have, including the super elevation and the speed, how many lanes, and then whether you're going to do stopping or passing sight distance. And what that'll do is it'll apply these standards to either an alignment that you already have drawn, or it will apply it to an alignment as you draw it. And what it'll do is it'll look up the AASHTO standards and determine whether or not that it will meet those standards. If it doesn't meet those standards, then you will get an error pop up that shows what the information you need to change about your alignment. Okay, so the design standards toolbar, if we look under open roads modeling, and then we're in this general tools area, under standards, we've got the design standards toolbar. That's what we'll look at here. And we'll open that up. This is a dockable one, so if you use it quite a bit, you could dock it. In here, there's a couple of pull downs. There's one for if you've got a 2-lane or 4-lane. If we try to match what we have out here in the drawing, we're looking at a 4-lane. Okay, 4-lane, 8% super, and 55 miles an hour. Okay, so we've plugged that information in, and we're also looking here at stopping sight distance. So those things are placed into my toolbar now. The options that we have in the toolbar are to set design standards or to turn on the design standards. So if you have something already drawn, you use the first tool to go set an item. And if you want to draw with the standards active, then you would have this button pressed here. And then draw your information, and it will check it as you draw it. So let's take a look at that. Setting design standards. This is an element out here that was drawn to a certain specification. And what I want to do is assign this information. So that first option in there allows us to do that. So we'll left click on that first option, and it'll come out and say select an element. Now that element needs to be a civil element. This is currently not a civil element. When I clicked on it, you could tell it was not a civil element because it's got all these different points placed out there. Okay, so we would need to turn this into a civil element to get this to work. So up underneath design elements, we've got create civil rule feature, which is something we learned in an earlier exercise. And we'll come down and select the item and right click reset to complete. Now when we look at that item, it's got an actual tangent element going into a curve and going back out. Okay, so now that one's been set. So now we can go back into our design standards toolbar, click the first tool. Now that element is able to be selected. So we can select it, and it's going to apply what we have here, the 4-lane, 8% super, 55 miles an hour. It's going to apply that to my civil element. So if I look and hover over the top of one of these exclamation points, I can see the transition length is less than the default. So the design standard says the value needs to be 230, and the actual value is 200. So what that means is I need to left click on that item, and this 200 length coming into it needs to be at least 230. So as we can change that to 230, hit enter on that, and that will remove the exclamation point or the error that it says it doesn't meet the standards. Same thing with the other side, 230 and it's 200. Select on it and we can change that to 230. Enter that in, and now you've set the design standards for that element. Okay, that's all design standards does, it just sets that up. It also works for the profile, so when you go into chapter 3, we'll take a look at doing the stopping sight distance for that. The other thing is the feature definition toggle bar, the match and set feature definition. I have that here, docked actually, at the top of my screen, but that is in the standards feature definition toolbar. That's where that's located, and that's this item right here. Feature definition toggle bar or toolbar. What you can do with this is you can set a feature to start. So the drop down, you can come out here and select an item. So if you click on linear and say geometry, linear design, and then go to geometry, you can do geometry scratch. And then this first item in here will set that as an active feature. And then if you go out here and you draw an item on the screen, it becomes that feature. And if you hover over it, it will show you that that has been given that feature definition of geometry scratch. Okay. The next couple of things that we have here out to the right, we've got a match and we've got a set feature definition. If you look at the feature definition toggle bar, match feature definition is this item right here. When you select that tool, you can come down and select on either one of these lines that we have out there. If you hover over them, it'll say that that's a building and that that is a right-of-way line existing. So when you select on one, say the building there, it will fill that information in here. So it matches it and places it in to our toggle bar. Okay. Now to change something to that feature definition, we've got this one out here that doesn't have anything. You can go back into the standards pull down here and go to set feature definition. Now you have to watch this dialog. I believe it was this way in older versions as well, but it doesn't match what we have turned on right here. Okay, so you have to make sure that that you do have that set correctly. Right now it's at no feature definition and we have alignment selected. So we want to come in here and we'll go to linear, and then we'll go in the linear design. This should be under property and then building. Okay, so now we can go out and select one of these items and reset to complete. Okay. So now we have turned that into a building feature. For some reason setting it here doesn't quite get that to work for you. You can match the right-of-way line as well, right-of-way line existing. We can go up here to the set feature definition, and now it does take it on. So you pretty much kind of have to just do that a couple of times to get that to take effect, but now it knows what it is and it will use the active feature. Okay, so there's a couple of things to take a look at there when you're doing this. A lot of times the first time that you do this tool, it doesn't recognize that you have this, but the next time you pull it up, it typically does recognize what you have in there for the active feature definition. Okay, that's your standards portion of it. Your civil toggles, this is remove rules in this area. So if I hit F4, if I select that item, you can see that it's got rules applied to it. So it's got the length and the bearing, the It's got the radius in there of the arc. It's got all that information filled in. And we want to kind of take that down to its lowest form and turn it basically into a complex element without all this information. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to remove the rules from that one. Okay, underneath this civil toggles, that's where civil AccuDraw is located, there is a remove rules here. So we'll left click on remove rules. We'll come down here and select the item that we want to get rid of, and it will go ahead and turn that into individual elements. Okay, if we continue to drop these things, you can select them, and then when you're done you can right click to remove more rules. Now it's turned it into regular lines and arcs, and it's gotten rid of all the clips and everything. So you can continue to remove as many rules as it has. Okay, so these items, such as this arc, they don't have rules anymore to them, so they're not selectable. But you can continue to remove those rules and get it down to its most basic form. It's almost like a drop element for MicroStation. It just gets rid of all of that civil activity. Okay, so that's your standards and your civil toggles.